Good morning, everyone. Some of these individuals we haven't seen for a while, and I see a couple of our board members have joined us this morning.
Yeah,
Good
board
morning.
members and some tourism folks. I know Andrea shared this out with her network, so I see some tourism folks. Welcome to our Mornings on Main webinar series. We started this during COVID. We used to do this weekly. Then it was monthly, and now we do it about 4 times a year. So I'm glad you're with us this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to Gayla just for some announcements, and then I'll introduce Andrea.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're happy that you guys have joined us early this morning. I know in many of your areas it's extremely cold, so I hope you, like me, have a heater at your feet. But we're excited to have Andrea with us this morning. As you all will hear from Keith, they have worked together for many, many years on and off. They were just talking, last decade. So it's been a long relationship. So I'll let Keith give that information about Andrea. But Andrea, we're really, really pleased that you could join us today. And we continue to look forward to how we can help the Missouri Film Office and also tourism department. We just continue to believe that our main streets have a story in themselves, and we can continue to tell those stories through tourism, but also what a fabulous way to be able to tell the world about our main streets, and that is to be able to have a film in one of our communities. So thank you for joining us this morning. I do want to mention that we have something that is kind of together with this as well. We're doing a workshop in Lebanon, Missouri on February the 23rd, and it's telling your Main Street story, marketing your Main Street. And Keith's put that up on the screen there. Everybody's welcome to attend. Our speaker is going to be really helping you all come up with a strategic marketing plan that encompasses, of course, your Main Street, but also your community. Kirsten Borgstrom is going to be our speaker. She's been doing this for over 20 years. We know Kirsten really well. She's from Michigan. Yes, Keith?
I was just going to say, those of you that have been on our Mornings on Main for a period of time, Kirsten did a Mornings on Main for us that was very popular. So some of you may have already seen her via Zoom. She does a great job and is wonderful at communication. And I forgot this, but she was on the team when they created the marketing campaign, Pure Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So anyway, she'll be a wealth of information, but also she's very high energy, fun lady. So it will be a great workshop, February 23rd in Lebanon. So you all can go to our website and get signed up for that. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Keith.
Great. Well, Gayla did a great setup. We're kind of doing all things tourism related and how to promote your downtown. And so this is just another way to do that. Andrea's going to share about the film office. It's kind of a smaller department within tourism and DED, but does a lot of great and amazing high profile stuff. I know those of you that have seen our promotions and things that have gone out related to this Mornings on Main, probably one of the most recent was Gone Girl, was filmed in the Cape Girardeau area. Marla Mills, who was with Old Town Cape at the time, helped in some of that planning and on-site stuff when she was with the Main Street program in Cape Girardeau. Ozark, kind of the newest thing that's out there. While it's not filmed in Missouri, they've used a lot of the shots and stuff from Missouri, and so gives us some hopefully good publicity, right, Andrea, even though the show's a little bit dark. But lots of good stuff. I've worked with Andrea for probably, we were talking about 15 years or so, 15, 16 years. When I was in the tourism industry as a hotelier, running the Elms in Excelsior Springs and doing the marketing there. Actually, Andrea came up and we showed her around for the day, and she took a bunch of photos for her library because, as she's going to explain, people are reaching out all the time looking for location stuff. So it was kind of a reconnaissance visit, and then just related to tourism and when I was on the Missouri Travel Council. So I was excited to call Andrea and invite her to be part of our Mornings on Main series. So Andrea, welcome, and I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Awesome. Oh, yes. So Ozark. I couldn't talk about it for a long time. They did actually shoot for 1 week at the Lake of the Ozarks, and all in the first season, the very end, that's all real Lake of the Ozarks. And you can tell the real stuff that's shot, there's a lot of aerial stuff they came back and shot. So just want to clear that up. I couldn't talk about it for a while, but we did have the whole family, all the birds were in Lake of the Ozarks. So I'm going to pull up my
I love to watch the podcast while you're doing that smart list and hear Jason Bateman talk about it on that podcast.
Awesome. Actually, somebody told me, I'll say this while I'm pulling out my PowerPoint. I guess on one of the podcasts, he said something, they were talking about saying people's names right or wrong. And he actually said, I haven't heard this, it's a secondhand, but he actually said Andrea is one of the ones. And we actually did have that conversation when he was here. So I don't know if he was for sure talking about me or not, but we're going to say he was.
There we go. There we go.
All right, cool. Thank you for the wonderful introductions. Yes, Andrea Sporcic Klund. I am the director and the sole employee of the Missouri Film Office at the moment, though I am getting an assistant that's starting on the 16th of February. So I'm very excited about that. But the film office itself has been around since 1983, so a little while. I started in 2005, and we kind of bounced around a little bit. Some of my tourism colleagues know we were at the University of Missouri for a while, an MOU with the state, and now we are under tourism in the Department of Economic Development. So that's where we live right now. Let's see here. What kinds of projects do I work on? So there's all different things. I've been considering changing our office name from the Missouri Film Office to the Missouri Filming Office, because it's not about film and TV anymore. Things stream, we watch it on our phones and our computers. So anything that films with a camera and then is shown on a screen, it could be your phone, I help assist and recruit for the economic development dollars that they spend in the communities, and then also for the additional exposure that you get. So these are the types of projects, the Travel Channel shows that you have, travel channel shows, Food Network shows, big shows. So on on the big show everyone's talking about, The Last of Us. My husband's watching it. It's a video game a show based on a video game that actually shot a little bit in Kansas City. So sometimes we get a little piece of things, sometimes we get a whole thing. What happens when a production comes to your community? These are the kinds of dollars that are spent depending on the size of the project. So you'll see it varies a bit. We do a lot of commercial work. So commercials are also part of this industry. They're shot almost every day somewhere in the state. Where do they spend the money? You'll see these are the different things they spend money: hotels and motels, rent cars. They are by renting equipment. It could be like not just camera equipment that you're familiar with and lights that you're familiar with, but also like lifts, the construction lifts. Sometimes they rent those, all different kinds of things. Of course, they'll hire people. They got to feed those people, all the different things that you can see here. So that money really goes wide into a community when a production comes to town. My previous director, some of you may have worked with Jerry Jones, used to say it's like a little small army is coming and dropping money in the community and then leaving. So some of the resources on my website, we just had a brand new fresh website that we launched in April. It's mofilm.org, and there's a lot of really cool information, I think, on our website. Two important resources are our locations database, which Keith referenced, and I do come and scout communities. So I reach out to me if you think there is something that would be good location for us. And it doesn't always have to be the shiny, sparkly, brand new thing. Sometimes, as Ozark will show you, we need a little bit more seedier thing or a little bit more rundown thing. When Gone Girl was coming to Cape Girardeau, those of you who read the book first will remember that the city of North Carthage was not doing well. It was during the recession and things were bad. And I kept warning people at Cape, like the Cape may not look as beautiful as Cape looks in the movie. I want to prepare you guys for this. And then what happened? David Fincher fell crazy in love with Cape Girardeau, the director, and made it look fantastic and beautiful and nothing like it was in the book. So it was a win-win there for us. But so the locations database that we keep, The important thing is to upload locations needs to be either the owner of the property or somebody that manages it, that has the permission, that could actually work with me and the production to make that happen. So we can't just like upload everything in your community. I mean, we really need it to be tied to somebody that can really talk to us about that location. Crew and company database. So when a production comes, I talked about this a little bit, they hire people, and it's not just, you'll see even this first listing on the right-hand side is the Hampton Inn. So hotels that have worked with productions, that want to work with productions, that could be production offices, construction companies, medics, police officers that could work as off-duty police officers on set. All of those people are employed when a production comes to the community, and they can list themselves on this production guide, along with makeup artists who have some experience having worked on a commercial, any kind of filmed project. You just have to have 2 paid credits on a real production where you were paid to be in the production guide. So if you know those folks in your communities, encourage them to list themselves in this production guide. And it's 24/7. So production is a very long days, and they're prepping ahead of time, especially these reality shows like the Travel Channel shows. They're prepping like 6 cities all at once. So they're looking in 2 in the morning, they're looking at this production guide and trying to find people and find resources. So they don't call me at 2 in the morning, because that would not be fun at all. Okay, whoops, I lost my cursor. Okay, a couple other things that my office does to recruit. My biggest target market are Missourians working in film and TV in New York and LA. So almost everybody knows somebody whose daughter's cousin's boyfriend, somebody is a writer or an actor, and I collect all of these people, and we market them because they all want to bring a project home. They all want to show their families what they do, and I want to make that happen. And those projects are usually sometimes Missouri set, they have a Missouri connection. And so we do Missouri meetup events in LA and New York. You'll see the bottom picture is our last LA event in 2019. Quite a lot of Missourians out in Los Angeles. They love coming together, meeting each other. One of my very favorite stories was the second meetup that we did. These 2 guys walked past each other and like did this, oh my gosh, like TV moment. And they were both in LA. They had been in kindergarten and 1st grade together and had not seen each other since, and had reconnected at this event. How cool is that? And they've worked together now. One's an editor and one's a director of photography, cameraman. So these are really cool connections. And during COVID, as you all know, a lot of people realize they can work remotely, and there are at least 25 people that I know of for sure that relocated from LA and New York back to Missouri and are working out of here, which is exciting. And I hope will just add to our industry here, and that they won't keep leaving, they'll just stay here. There are incentives. A lot of you probably have heard, we've been on the news lately. Film tax credit incentives. We used to have one. Missouri had one from 1999 to 2013. Gone Girl was the last production to utilize that. We have had pending legislation every session since, including this session, and there's actually a hearing going on in the House right now for the film incentive. I'm hopeful that we will get that tool to work with that will help us bring in bigger projects. But in the meantime, we couldn't just sit around. I wanted to continue to be building up a reservoir of potential projects. So I started the Missouri Stories Scriptwriting Fellowship Program in 2014. And it's for, the screenwriter does not have to be from Missouri, but there's screenplays and TV pilot scripts that are set in Missouri. So those folks submit every year, and 3 winners win a fellowship experience. And we bring in 2 working writers, either from LA or New York, that are working currently on shows, and then the 3 writers and myself in a bed and breakfast. And we've been all over the state. This is our 9th year. Can't believe it's been 9 years. And we're hopefully going to be in Springfield for the fellowship this year. But we've been in Rocheport, in St. Charles, in Excelsior Springs. We had a wonderful fellowship. So this has been building. Over 500 scripts set in Missouri have come through this program, which is awesome. I keep teasing that we're going to have our own Netflix channel of all Missouri set movies. Off of this Missouri Stories Fellowship, we started a production lab. And that's where I thought we've got to do a little more. The script writing is great. The networking is great. These are great projects, but they're not really getting the traction. What else can I do? I also steal things from the Sundance Institute. You may have heard of this, the Sundance Film Festival and the Sundance. They do all of these programs that are wonderful and really foster talent. So I invited the winners of our Missouri Stories Fellowship that won the first 5 years to submit short films, 15 pages or less, and that we were going to put teams together and make short films that we could show some of the assets in Missouri and the people here, the talent that we have here. So we have made 3 so far. It's been a little rocky with COVID and all that jazz, but I'm very proud of them. We haven't launched them and shown them in a big way yet, but very soon we're going to show them, and they've been beautiful locations. We shot at the old Ford plant in Claycomo in Kansas City, and it looks so cool, post-apocalyptic. It's awesome. And we also shot in St. Louis at Eden Seminary. It looks really fantastic. So I do think if these films get out on the film festival circuit and people start seeing them and they're branded Missouri Stories Production Lab, that is going to be just an additional advertisement for the kinds of locations and talent that we have here. So I might be reaching out to your communities to help us with a production lab short in the future. Film tourism. So my office is a part of the tour of tourism, which is a really great fit because they get it with the hotel rooms, and the way that the money is spent can be similar to when a convention comes to town. Some of the exposure that you can get, and this is hard to put a number on. I know, like ad equivalency, it's hard to give a value, but some examples of the kinds of press that we get. During Gone Girl, right away, they were very proactive about working with the studio to do a driving tour of the locations. And if you've been to Cape Girardeau, most of you probably have, I hope, the bar, one of the main locations, the owner at the time negotiated very smartly to keep all of the assets. So they built it, they set it up. There's a big mural on the wall outside. All of that, the owner was allowed to keep that in place, which has been great. So now it's a tourism asset for the movie, a film tourism asset. And even now we're 10 years out. I can't believe that movie came out 10 years ago, but we're 10 years away and people are still talking about that and coming and taking pictures. It's still a value. Also, when Ozark shot the first year they filmed here in Missouri a little bit, Netflix reached out to us to see if we would partner on some international publicity. So they brought 3 international travel writers into the Lake of the Ozarks, and we gave them a Lake of the Ozarks experience. And it was so cool. My favorite thing I talk about is I got to teach them. One was from the UK, one was from Spain, one was from Germany. And I taught them how to cove out. It's the coolest thing ever, right? Like, I didn't know that people didn't know how to do that. So just, sit in the water. Yeah, you just sit in the water on a hot day. It's awesome. This is one piece in the middle here. It's from a UK publication that they wrote about the experience of the Lake of the Ozarks tied into watching Ozark. And then our last example here, seasons 3 and 4 of Queer Eye, that Netflix television series shot in the Kansas City area. And the cool thing about that is it's real people. It's a reality. So they highlight businesses and people in the community, and there's a driving tour there as well. And people can actually patronize these places. Like, they can go to the barbecue restaurant that was on the show, and that we've seen an uptick in all of that. Exposure is nutty. I had a reality show panel once at an economic development conference where we brought in some folks. It's been many years. These shows are not on anymore, but Truck Stop Missouri was on at the time. God, Guns, and Automobiles was a show at the time. And there was a Branson show. Can't remember the name of the Branson show now. It was a singing show. I'll think of it in a minute. But we had these folks talk about like their experience and what happened. And every single one of them expressed that it was rough. They thought, why am I doing this? We did the show, it came out, and the exposure blew their minds. And would they do another show? Absolutely. People were trying to buy car. A guy bought a car from Japan because he had seen God's, Guns, and Automobiles, and wacky stuff happens when you have this audience, like a global audience, frankly. So that's the kind of exposure. I can't promise this exposure for every project. We just had a little movie, independent film, a guy who grew up in Poplar Bluff and went to school in St. Louis and then went to work in New York and is an editor for like Saturday Night Live and different shows in New York City. Wanted to make his first feature, and it was during COVID, and we were working hard to try to make that happen in and around Poplar Bluff. And I'm excited to say that it has been filmed and it's starting to be released soon. I can't always promise a community when they work with a project that it's going to be a huge hit. I mean, even Gone Girl could have not been, but it's pretty awesome when it is. And we've been very lucky here. A lot of the big things that have come in have been very successful. Up in the Air with George Clooney, Winter's Bone was the launch of Jennifer Lawrence's career. Ozark, still talking about that. Film festivals, and we had about 22 film festivals annually across the state in 2019. COVID was rough on movie theaters and film festivals, any live gatherings, as you know. And so we have lost a few festivals. Our three biggest festivals still going strong. The True Falls Film Festival, which is a documentary film festival in Columbia, draws a lot of people. They are our highest attended. I think they're in the 43,000 attendees, and that's butts in seats. So over 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. And those of you who have not come, if you are interested in documentaries, I highly recommend you check it out. And you'll see that the community, not only does Columbia's community support it, but they bring in folks. And because it's documentaries, a lot of the subjects of the documentaries are there. Everyone's in restaurants between films talking about the films. It's really a beautiful thing. And it's nice to be able to have an event like that draws all these different kinds of people. Similar, St. Louis International Film Festival is our oldest film festival. I think they're almost 30 years old now. They're a 10-day film festival, so it's a little bit longer, and weekends are a little heavier, but they're every night of the week. Kansas City Film Fest, also in their 20s, one of our biggest film festivals. And then we have specialized festivals. So the Fault Line Film Festival is for college students, short films. That's out of Cape Girardeau. And then Central Film Festival is high school. It's a central high school in Springfield. It's high school kids, which is super cool. Similarly, the 4-H Film Festival, I work with them. They're nationals. They bring in 4-H kids across the country. It's a film festival in August that's traveled around the state as well. There's also specialized film festivals for the LGBT community. We have the Out Here Now Festival in Kansas City and the Q Fest in St. Louis. And then there are Jewish film festivals in St. Louis and Kansas City as well. We had a women's film festival in Columbia with Stevens College that is kind of on a hiatus at the moment. But it's neat. There was a small film festival down in Sikeston called the Tributary Film Festival that had about a 3-year run. And I know that part of their game plan was to bring people to their downtown, specifically in Sikeston, and they were Mississippi Delta. So the filmmakers, they were trying to reach out to filmmakers that were Mississippi Delta, and that was a sweet film festival. I wish they're hard, and my office is here to help. If you or someone in your community is thinking of putting on a film festival, I can be a resource and put you in touch with some of these other film festivals as well. Art house theaters. Now I'm getting more involved in these of late, and these are cool. They're cool because a lot of them are in either old theaters that have been redone, updated, or they're old buildings that are being reutilized as a small theater. They're nice in that you can do a small space. So all three of these, Ragtag Cinema is out of Columbia, and the True Falls Film Festival kind of came out of that cinema. Started out a very small 20-seat theater, and they had couches. So it was a projector and a screen and like 6 couches or 8 couches or something like that. It was comfortable and cool, and you could go hang out and watch films. Capital City Cinema is on Main Street here, High Street. has about 50 seats in it, and it's next door to a restaurant, and there's a door that connects so they can go to the restaurant and get food and drinks and take it over to the cinema to watch films. And then the Moxie in Springfield, similar setup. I don't have grants or anything for these art house theaters, but through economic development, there's the potential of getting community block grants and different things for folks that are interested in building this. And most of them are also multi-use spaces, so they can also be event spaces. They can be rented out for meetings and different things, and having the AV component is great. So these are just some of the things that I work with. I want to throw out one other organization. Film in Mo is the Missouri Motion Media Association, and they're a statewide advocacy and educational organization. They help support my office, and you may see them. They're the ones at the Capitol right now, doing the testimonies, just so you know about them. And that's a lot of information. I hope I didn't talk too fast, Keith.
No, that was perfect. In fact, I wrote down some questions to just kind of continue the conversation and dive in a little deeper. Real quick, so we'll just talk about film festivals for a minute. Someone asked, are there any horror movie festivals in Missouri?
There are. There's I don't know if it's called the Outlaw Film Festival, Fright Fest. I think it's called Fright Fest, is up in between Kansas City and St. Joseph, somewhere in there. I don't know that one as well, but yes, and that is a genre that definitely brings people out for sure.
Well, and so I love how the ragtag art house theater came out of starting a film festival. So I wanted to dive into that a little deeper. I know we have folks on the webinar today that have, some pretty special things within their communities. I'm kind of thinking of Marceline with the Boyhood Home of Walt Disney, and they have an old theater downtown. And I remember the story of, Walt premiered one of his movies or cartoons there. So how would someone go about starting a film festival? Because I think it's, I think they do go hand in hand. If a theater needs to be renovated a bit, could a film festival provide some of that funding to help in that rehabilitation or bring more exposure or attention to a theater that needs help? So how would one go about maybe starting a film festival?
Yeah, so it was the opposite with Ragtag and True Falls. So the cinema existed first, and then the film festival kind of came out of that. I think it started as a film series, whatever. But yes, I hear you. Usually partnering with like the film school at a college or university, most of them, I would see that, reach out to it needs to be a legitimate film festival, and you need to like think through who your audience is and all of those things. But definitely, I mean, yes. And the difference between like an art house cinema versus a film festival sometimes is, in an art house theater, you can't just show films. I'm just going to bring my DVDs and show films. You have to pay a rental fee, and they're not always crazy. I mean, it can be like $200 to show legitimately. And there's a company in this, a lot of cities, parks and recs in the summertime do this big screens and show films. There's a company in St. Louis called Swank, SWANK, and Swank is the aftermarket distributor for a lot of films. And so they're the ones that you would reach out and pay the $200 to be able to show the film. So even if you want to do a fundraiser, maybe you're trying to make the cinema into something, you could do fundraisers, rent a movie, and start raising money that way. But when you work with films that don't have distribution yet, so these are films that are, just getting out there, independent made films, then showing those, you won't have a fee necessarily. You may cost something to bring filmmakers in to do question and answers and stuff afterward. But yes, you don't have to pay a rental fee necessarily, but you might bring the filmmaker in. So that's a different way to pay for it, if you will.
Okay. While I'm asking this next question, because there are several folks that I think want more information from what I'm seeing in questions already, can you type your email address in the chat box for everybody?
Yep.
They've got that. So our good friend Amy Supple in Chillicothe is asking, how can we get more involved in film in Missouri?
Good question, Amy. Hi, Amy. Amy and we work a lot together, and so one of the things, it's two things. If you get a phone call from me, it usually starts with, I have a very strange question for you, because it's usually something like, we have a commercial that needs an alligator trainer. Do you have any idea who might be an alligator trainer? That's real story. So sometimes I'm going to be reaching out to you and your community, and then someone will call you and say, this weird lady in the film office called. Or we're about to start our newsletter again now that I'm having a new staff person. So I think there is on our website currently somewhere where you can give your email address to be on our newsletter. So that's an easy way to do it. And then following the Film in Mo on Facebook will give you a lot of updates about what's going on too. So Amy, I'll talk about one thing. So part of the Missouri Stories program, Amy and I have a dream. We have a dream. One of the winning screenplays a few years ago is a writer from St. Louis who lives and works in Los Angeles now, but he wrote this story, this beautiful period piece about the inventor of sliced bread. And I was afraid to tell Amy about it and I didn't know if it would win, but it did win, and it's a very good script. And we're really hopeful that at some point we can bring that story. And wouldn't it be heartbreaking for that to film anywhere else except in Chillicothe and in Missouri? Honestly, it would be heartbreaking. So that's hopefully everyone.
And Amy said the other part of your dream hopefully goes along with this whole dream you guys have, is to have John Hamm come to Chillicothe.
Yes, I have met John Hamm one time for 3 minutes at Sundance. So I'm working on it, Amy. I'm working on it.
All right. Christian asked, how many 48-hour film festivals do we have in Missouri?
Oh, look at that. Your
what I was going to say, tell us what that means.
Yes, that very good question. I'm gonna put my email in here before I forget and start talking. Okay. This is a very cool program. My previous life, I worked at the St. Louis International Film Festival and did a 48-hour film. It's really hard. It's a national organization, and there are like chapters across the country. And in Missouri, I think we have 3 that are 48 hours. And then we have a couple others that are a little bit different. Basically, you come together, you do a film team, and you have 48 hours to make a film, and you draw a name of a character, a name of a prop, and something. So they know that you did it within this window of time. You don't sleep. You write the script in the first, 8 hours, and then it's grueling. And then at the end, they show the films, and then there are winners of the films. And it's really cool. I mean, it's not super realistic to make a film in 48 hours, but it is satisfying. You get a deadline, it's finished. Mm-hmm. So I know St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield has a different one. They call it I'm going to miss it. It's a different one. And I think it's even faster. I think it's like a 24-hour one or something. It's really crazy. But yes, I highly recommend it. And if you're interested in hosting something like that, you can reach out to me and I can tie you into those folks.
Okay. And then Susan asked for your PowerPoint, and I was just going to ask if you'd turn it into a PDF and send it to me, and I'll send it out to everybody. Okay.
Yep.
She wants to show it to a local theater in their community.
Great.
Yep. Perfect. That's what we want. That's what we want. So you talked about the screenwriter fellowship and the production lab. I think those are awesome. I think, those folks that have more of the like painters and artists and things in their community, it's kind of like a plein air event is what I imagine, but it's for screenwriters and production folks. How would a community pitch their community to host one of those to you if they were interested?
I love that. Okay, cool. The production lab is a little harder because it's the locations. Well, I don't know. I mean, pitch me your locations regardless. I mean, I want to know about these places, and especially closed things are easier because they can take over something. So if you have, and we'll always get like the farmhouse, and they need there's all kinds of kind of things we get over and over again, but those special properties in your communities, do reach out to me, because I do not know. When I got a weird request just yesterday and I've heard through the grapevine over the years that these exist, but like stretches of highway, parts of old highway that are kind of sitting abandoned that could be used for production in the future. I've heard there are some exist, but I don't know if you have one of those in your community. I had a request yesterday. So
little sections of Route 66 that are abandoned. They're very short.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is what I've heard. So very cool. Am I answering the question right? Yeah. So pitch me those things. And then for the fellowship itself, we were in B&Bs, so we
What
were
do you
in
need for
Bridgeport.
accommodations?
Yeah, so we were in B&Bs for a while, and then we started doing like boutique hotel. We were at the Cheshire in St. Louis once, and then last year we were downtown Kansas City in a hotel, and I'm thinking we might be in a hotel in Springfield. So it's helpful if we can be in a combined where we're close together, because and it's mostly just talking and eating and talking and eating. Lots of
Things
talking.
to do.
Yes, yes.
How about how many people? So, if a community is looking and they have a hotel with 20 rooms, is that enough? I mean,
No,
tell me of the space.
Yeah, so we traditionally have 3 writers, myself, and then 2 mentors. So between 7 and 10 rooms really is plenty.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. So Jacob asked, is there any marketability for abandoned buildings? I think you kind of answered that yes, definitely. So how do they go and put their locations in that database that you talked about on the first slide?
So that's a good question. I should have my other slide, but it's very easy. So on the website, you go to location database.
Tell them what website that is real quick.
MoFilm, MoFilm.org. I'll put that in here too.
Okay.
MoFilm.
I'll do that while you talk.
Okay, you rock. And then under locations, there's a drop-down menu, and it's list your locations, and you just fill out a form. And then we'd like at least 3 pictures, and no more than like 10 pictures. Some people go crazy. 3 for sure. You want a big exterior so you can see what's around, because it's important for production, because they will have production trucks. They need to know like what's around it. So a big wide shot, and then some close-up shots, and then some interior shots. So, and I can walk you through the kinds of pictures. And if you go on the database, you can kind of look at some of the locations and see the pictures. It's a little bit different than like tourism photographs where you want people in there and stuff.
Like I remember, so Andrea did this, like I mentioned in the intro, like 15 years ago, she came, and I think this was before you had the database, you were starting to create the database. And so we just drove around town, and, you think about, all of those kind of tourism sites, but really you were looking for other stuff too, like unique homes or boulevards, or I know we took you to the golf course. We have a historic golf course. And so, kind of think about it from a production standpoint, not necessarily from a tourism standpoint, which is, I think, what we all tend to do. But and some of those abandoned buildings that are within your community. But as you said, you have to have permission, and the people who own them have to list them, or you have to be managing it for them, correct?
Yeah. And we'll help you with the negotiation for location fees. That's another question we get, like, what does that cost? What should I charge? And usually I just say, we want it to be fair, and for it to cover your costs, and it to be fair for the production, but also cover, pay enough for you. Like, it could be $500 a day. It could be $1,000 a day. It could just be the salary for a person that you would like to be there to make sure everything goes okay. With the abandoned buildings, there needs to be some safety, so knowing the safety of the building is very important. However, a big enough production could come in, and even if there were some fundamental things they needed to do the building, they could do that to the building and then leave it. So it could be a win-win. Like, that's your location fee, is them fixing these walls or fixing the ceiling before they use it. One of the things, so sound stages are becoming more and more important. In 2019, there was a boom in production. Like, there was more production happening than has ever happened before. All of these streaming services were just launching. It was like big time happening, and the studios were desperate for new spaces, new sound stages to film. They can't build anymore in Los Angeles. There's no more room in Los Angeles. So then the gosh darn pandemic happened and changed everything a little bit, but there's still a need for these sound stages. And one of my goal is to help, once we get a big enough film that can utilize a warehouse space with the high ceilings, maybe it's not a soundstage, but it would fit their specs. A production could come in for a reasonable fee, pay utilities, pay whatever, build the infrastructure for a soundstage, the basics that they need for their production, and then leave it. And then we have a working soundstage for the next production. That's how Tyler Perry Studios started. There are a lot of retrofit buildings. In New York, their big soundstage is an old Navy yard. And I think Tyler Perry's, I can't remember what his was before this. And I've heard there's a pancake factory where they used to make pancake mix in in Kansas City somewhere that could work. In St. Charles, there are a couple buildings that I think could work. I've had my eye on the Earth City training, the old Rams training facility. So big spaces that could be retrofit.
Do you have any sound stages in Missouri right now?
We have small sound stages. We don't have large. Technically, we don't have what Hollywood would call a sound stage. No.
Okay. So we were talking again before everybody got on about my experience with film. We had it was a Kansas City filmmaker, John Stewart Muller, approached me when I was the general manager of the Elms in Excelsior Springs, probably in 2007, I'm thinking, and wanted to film a movie there. The first 5 minutes of the movie, called Fling, it didn't make its big debut on the big screen. There was a premiere in Kansas City, which was fun. But he was from Kansas City. He attended a wedding at the Elms, which the Elms hosts hundreds of weddings a year. And they came in and spent a week. And I mean, it just blew my mind. They spent a week to film 5 minutes of this movie. And how many times they filmed one scene. One scene could take a whole day. I mean, it was just, it was eye-opening for me. But when you mentioned all of the production crew, I mean, they utilized rooms at the hotel, they ate food at the hotel. So while we were letting them use our space for free, we certainly received revenue from them because they were utilizing the hotel and its services. But then they brought makeup folks and hair folks from Kansas City. I mean, it was just very, very eye-opening. And so I can only imagine, the Gone Girl production taking place in Cape Girardeau. Are there any economic numbers that you guys kind of put economic impact to
Sure.
filming?
Yep. So Gone Girl, that 5 weeks. So technically about 5 weeks of production. So a little spillover. Maybe there were smaller teams in before and after, but we're talking about 5 weeks. They spent $7.8 million in audited funds, because we had the tax credit at the time. So we audited everything, $7.8 million in 5 weeks. Of that, they received a $2.5 million tax credit incentive. So that's still, we take that off, there's still a little more than $5 million spent in the area. I know 7,000 room nights were utilized, and you think about $100 a room night, that's $700,000 for the hotel alone.
And then that bed tax, which goes then to support tourism in the community. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and it's weird things. It's almost so a lot of. In Cape specifically, the thrift stores and the antique stores got a lot of business. So they buy lots of things, and then they have to take them. They don't return them or sell them. They take them back to Los Angeles because they have to have everything in case they need to do reshoots on a soundstage. So the bedspread on the bed has to come back to LA and all of this stuff. A lot of they built a lot of things for Gone Girl specifically, and they utilized lumber from the area and the construction companies from the area. So all the money, they spend all the money. I was talking to a producer yesterday too, getting ready to testify tomorrow. Today is tomorrow. And he was saying that on average, I don't know where he read this, but it's like 801 film project takes about, from script to screen, script to shooting, about 847 days. So it can be a very long process. Winter's Bones specifically was about a 3-year process, and they were looking at upstate New York. Even though it was set, it was so Daniel Woodrell, who's one of our wonderful Missouri writers, based on his book Winter's Bone. It also would have been heartbreaking had that shot in upstate New York where they wanted to shoot. Once I get them here and they see the real place, it's hard for them to not want to do something here. And I was teasing about, I told the Teamsters the other day, they're like, I don't even know why they shot here that first week. I was like, because Jason Bateman promised me he would, because we got him, their team came, the lake was great to work with. I've worked the hardest on Ozark of any project in my career, just recruiting. Friendly aggressive is my new term for it. Andrea's friendly aggressive with these projects. And I have a very good relationship with the team still, but we brought in the team to do a location scout, and Jason, by the end of 2 days, we only had 2 days. I had to do so much in 2 days with these guys on the lake, off the lake. And he said, we will shoot here. And he could say that because he was directing the first 2 episodes of the season. And he did. And you can tell those scenes are really shot. There's this beautiful shot at the end of the last episode where they pull away, they're on a cliff. The whole family is on a cliff and they're like, what have we done? And it pulls away and you just see the vastness of the lake and that's us, that's our lake. And it makes me so happy to see that. So
yeah, we have such a beautiful state and it's such a diverse state that I think that it would be, once you got them here, that it would sell itself. Well, we just have a few minutes left. I want to remind folks, put in any last minute questions that you have. As we're winding down here, but I wanted to, we all have these things that can film, and I'm sure that has changed the industry in kind of those independent films, or even thinking about TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Are there any words of advice for young filmmakers, and how a community can support, maybe through a high school film entity? Any recommendations you have that anyone in our communities can support in their own community?
No, I love that. When I work with the Film Fest 4-H, I started realizing that video skills, basic video skills of writing a basic script, shooting correctly, and editing something together are the skills of the future. Just like reading and writing skills are necessary, that we're not going to have less video going forward. Every company on Facebook, all of it, you have to know how, and the ones that are successful are doing it right. So I think any LinkedIn Learning has, tutorials on this stuff now, but part of the storytelling goes beyond just what you're saying. It's how you frame the camera. It's, how it's lit. I mean, there's all this like subconscious subtext things that I think just that there's enough education out there for you to learn how to do it up your production value, as we say, will really go a long way.
Great. Well, I don't see any more questions. Gayla, do you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I just want to remind our Main Street directors out there and their staff and the board members that I know that are on our call. We were just in Jefferson City talking about the importance, educating our legislators, the importance of Main Street. But, you guys have those phone numbers on speed dial now. You have their emails. I would encourage you all just to send maybe an email out to your legislators and just encourage them to reinstate the film credits, increase the film credits. It could be a huge economic engine for our Main Street communities and our state. So I would just encourage you all, just right now, just shoot an email. Just say, hey, I just listened to Andrea and I know the importance of these film credits and I support them.
I will say it's one of the things that film can do. It's an equalizer. It doesn't mean St. Louis and Kansas City and the bigger cities are going to win out over smaller communities.
Right,
A lot of films. We had a film shoot in Boonville. We've had, all over the state. So it's an equalizer, I would say. And then one other, I keep forgetting to say, one of our great assets in Missouri that I haven't promoted as much as I should is our ability to be period pieces. Like we have so much historic buildings and so much we put it, and not that you have to make everything historically right, but that is an asset that I think we have done a really good job in Missouri, more so than other states. And I need to promote that. I have a dream, another dream, Amy. There's a location managers guild. So location managers pick locations and they have a guild doing a calendar and setting up photo shoots. Like at the Capitol, we make it 1940s. So we shoot it now, but we have 1940s cars and work with the theater communities and maybe do Bennett Springs in the 30s and like do like different periods across the state in a calendar. And I want to send it to all the location managers. So maybe you'll get a call from me that we're going to do that. Someday we're going to do that.
Well, we have a varied network. So yes, please reach out if you do that.
Awesome. Please do. And, it's just, again, it's just educating those around. And Andrea, you're wonderful. Everything that you have accomplished with budgets increasing and not, and et cetera, and you just keep at it. So we really, really appreciate you. It's great that whenever we reach out to you, you're always there to help us. So kudos to you. And we're gonna believe that we're going to see an increase. We are really connected to it in a way with one of our board members. That's not all he does, but he does tax credits. And he's always sending us, hey, I'm in Georgia again, And he's always telling us, hey, if we could be like Georgia, because they give out so many film credits, he's like, even commercials, film credits. So there is a huge market for it. If we could just open it up for everybody.
Yeah.
So even, and it's another little catchphrase you can spread for Ozark in Georgia, it took two lakes in Georgia to be one Lake of the Ozarks. They shot at Altoona and Lanier. Took 2 lakes. Thank you guys for having me. This has been awesome. And I look forward to those folks that have attended to reach out. I look forward to continuing the conversation. You can tell I kind of like what I do. I love it.
That's great, because we do too. and it all kind of comes around.
Yeah.
So have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. We will be sending out, we'll be uploading this to YouTube like we normally do. And then I'll also send out her presentation to everybody that attended live today. That'll be your little secret thing that you get since you're live. So everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Back out into the cold.
Yes, exactly.
Bye-bye, everybody.